I'm Bryn Brown, and today we are talking about how to actually use human design in your business, to build your business, to launch a business, to grow your business. We have a lot of conversation about, let me just adjust that. But there's a lot of conversation around how human design can help you build a business, but I wanted to just give you a little bit of a framework for how you would actually use it. What do you actually need to know in order to effectively use human design to help you grow your business? So what we're going to talk about primarily is type, strategy, authority. That's where we always start, you guys. This is like 80% of human design. When you initially look into human design, I know it can feel really overwhelming. There's all of these different planets and all of these different gates and lines and colors and not colors. And it can be hard to know what the heck you're even looking at when you look at a body graph. But not to mention that there are so many nuances that once you get into it and you start to see that there are other things you can consider, like circuitry or variables or any of these other words, right? So I want to keep it as simple as possible and just kind of give you some things to look into in your own chart. So if you've never run your chart or you're not familiar with your chart, you can run it at mybodygraph.com. I know if you are familiar with human design, or perhaps you are already in your experiment or even using it in your business, this isn't necessarily the platform that practitioners use, but it is a really beginner-friendly platform, mybodygraph.com. It's linked in the description so that you can run a chart and kind of have an idea of what you're looking at. It's interactive, so you can look at all the different parts and pieces and get a little bit of information. So as you're considering how to build a business or how you want to structure your business, this is where your type comes in, and knowing and understanding your type and your strategy, because type and strategy always go together, can really help you begin to structure a business that works for your energetic type. So depending on how your type determines, or will tell you, not, it doesn't determine, but it will tell you how your auric field works, right? So if you're a manifester, it may be a more closed or sort of repelling, having a repelling element to it. So you're protected from people coming in and interrupting your creative flow. Okay, so I don't want you to take that as a bad thing to have a repelling aura. It's actually protective mechanism and works really well for you. If you're a generator or a manifesting generator, you have an open and receptive aura because you're designed to respond to life. If you're a projector, you have this conical penetrating aura that kind of zeroes right into the G center, the heart center, right? Like not the ego or will center in human design, but the G center, which is your heart area, and another individual. And if you are a reflector, you have a sampling aura. So you're just pulling in from your environment. So knowing your type helps you understand how you interact with the world on a very general level energetically. And this can help you actually with your structure of your business. So if you are designed to, if you are a manifestor, for example, you may be more of an individual kind of person. So just broad strokes here, you guys. So you may find that having a business partner isn't really for you. Okay. You're taking initiative and you're doing things on your own in your own time. Whereas a generator type works really, really well in community, in response. And perhaps you would like to have a business partner, or perhaps the structure of your business relies heavily on interacting with individuals. So you launch a podcast because it allows you to interview people. And that is part of the business structure, right? So the overall structure and strategy. So looking at your type, and remember, strategy, type and strategy always go together. You can just kind of get a general idea of the kinds of things that will work well for you, or perhaps not work so well for you. I do want to pause here to say you can do whatever you want, even if it's quote unquote not ideal for your type and strategy, as long as you're following the strategy. Okay, so if I say you're a manifester, and maybe you don't work so well in partnership, but you have a business partner, that doesn't mean that you can't have a business partner and it'll never work. It just means that you need to follow your strategy to make it as easy and in flow as possible. So you are informing people along the way, and you're informing your business partner along the way as you make decisions. That's going to make it go smoother for you. So I just want you all to hear that this is nothing, none of this is going to be set in stone. There are a lot of different aspects to human design. So again, I'm trying to make broad strokes here, and that can be sometimes challenging. I just want to give you an overall gist. Okay. So looking at your type and strategy to understand. So again, manifestor is to inform, because they can initiate, they need to inform along the way. That's your strategy. For a generator or manifesting generator, it is to be in response to life. First, if you're a manifesting generator, you're in response to life and then you inform people. If you're a projector, you're waiting for an invitation. If you're a reflector, you're waiting a lunar cycle before we make decisions. And then our authority comes into this. So as long as we're following the strategy in the way that we're building our business, again, overall structure. So just to give a couple quick examples, a projector might do really well with one-to-one client work. Again, doesn't mean you can't run a group. I'm a projector. I've run many, many groups and just launched a brand new one successfully, I might add. So there are a lot of opportunities available to you. I also have a one-on-one or personalized component built in because I know that that works for my energetic type. For generators, you may also consider having something that gives you an interaction. So again, you know, it's like this element of being in response to people and what they want. So even if you have just courses, perhaps you have a Facebook group to support your students and they can come in there and you can be in response with them. That works really well. For a manifestor, you're initiating a lot of things. You're really designed to be a catalyst. You're designed to have impact and to be more of the individual leading a group or community rather than being a member of it, if that makes sense to you. And reflectors, you can kind of do whatever you want as long as you're following your strategy and authority. So any of these structures that you want to put in place will work, especially if you're in the energy of the type that you're sort of mimicking, because you are a mirror. So you can mimic any of those types and it can work really well for you. We also want to make sure that there's a lot of downtime because you are a non-sacral being. Okay. So after type and strategy, we're going to look at authority. So this is where you're making decisions. So if you're thinking like, how do I grow my business? How do I get more clients? What do I want to do? We need to rely on our authority to help us make the decision about whether a particular strategy is correct for us or not. And there, again, there are more layers to this, what we're going to touch on today. But your authority is half of you are going to have an emotional authority where you're not really designed to make in the moment decisions. So you follow your strategy first, and then you follow your authority. So if you're a projector, for example, you're going to wait for an invitation, and then you're going to ride out your emotional wave to see if that still feels correct. Not really just basing it on your first instinct, but really riding that emotional wave, sleep on it, give yourself a couple of days to decide and feel if it still feels correct all the way through, or if something's feeling a little bit off. Okay, so again, thinking about business building, perhaps there's a new course or a new strategy you want to learn, right? And you have an emotional authority. You might sit with that. So again, gut instinct or first instinct might be to say, okay, yeah, I think I want to learn this. I think I want to implement this strategy. So perhaps it's a DM strategy. Say you're on LinkedIn and you want to start DMing people, then we start to look at the major decision, overarching decision. Do I want to implement this DM strategy? If you're a generator type, you're asking yourself yes or no questions, just like that. Do I want to implement this DM strategy? Right? So then we're in response to our sacral for generator types. And then from there, say you're an emotional authority. So it's an in the beginning, but as you sit with it, it really, really wavers big time. Yes, no, I don't know. This isn't coming from your mind, but you're checking in that yes, no question throughout a day or a couple days or even a week. And you really feel like at the end of that surfing that emotional wave, that you are a no in the end. You may also feel that it's a yes with an asterisk, right? Like it's a yes, but you don't want to do cold DMs, right? These are only warm DMs. So you're only sending to existing contacts, for example, right? Again, manifestors, if you have, you're not going to have a sacral authority, but if you have, say, an emotional authority, again, you're going to want to ride that wave. Other authorities, just as a recap, are going to be, so emotional authority, you're going to have potentially generators only, manifesting generators. You're going to have a sacral authority, potentially, or a splenic authority. Manifestors and projectors could potentially have an ego authority. So it would say ego manifested or ego projected. You could have self-projectors could have self-projected or mental authority, which is sometimes called no authority, depending on the chart you're looking at, or environmental authority. And then the reflectors are going to have a lunar authority. So reflectors, it's always waiting out, giving yourself the time to see what comes into your awareness over a lunar cycle. Okay, so 28 to 30 days. For the other authorities, you're going to want to follow it out. For example, I'm a mental projector. I don't know what feels right for me until I actually verbalize things. So if you're an ego manifestor or projector, if you're a self-projected projector, if you are mental or no authority, right, you need to hear yourself talk it out. So we need to have a really nice sounding board, like a neutral sounding board, to help you hear yourself so that you know what's right for you. If you're splenic, you're really feeling into your intuition, which might take a little bit of time, but it also might come in the moment as well. And then your splenic, your sacral authorities, those you're going to know, you guys, you're going to just know that's going to be an or an and that's generators only, generators and manifesting generators. So again, as we're thinking about the overall structure, you want to do something that really fits in alignment, energetic alignment with your type and strategy. Then as we're implementing different tactics, we're leaning on our authority. Okay. Now, there's a couple other things that you want to maybe think about. One of the things that I want to bring up today is your profile line. So these are two numbers. You're going to have your conscious and unconscious. So you're going to see a 5-1 or a 1-3 or a 4-6. Okay. So if you're seeing that on your chart, that's your profile. Now, this can be really helpful because this is how you're designed to interact with the world. And we want to use our authority, the knowledge around our authority, to benefit us in terms of how we're going about the specific tactics as well. So, for example, if you are a 4-6 profile, that 4 is a very social. It's a social profile number, right? So the 4 needs to be in community. It is about who you know, and then it's the opportunist. It's how you show up in the right place at the right time. So you would lean on your strategy and your authority to make decisions. So say, for example, you're invited to a networking event and you are a 4-6 generator, and your authority is emotional. So you get, invited to a networking event or invited to speak. Let's say that you get invited to speak at an event, and you initially, your sacral says, yes, this is a yes. You give it a couple of days. It's still a yes. And you decide to go. We know that 4-line profile is you showing up, connecting with the right people. So you really do need to be in the right place at the right time. Your sacral, following your strategy and your authority, is also going to guide you as to what is a yes for you to ensure that you're showing up in the right place at the right time. So you don't need to worry, is this the right timing for me? Your strategy and authority are going to guide you. Okay. The 6th line is a little bit interesting because it depends on your age. So if you're in the first 30 years of your life, if you're between 30 and 50, and then if you're over 50. But again, if you're under 30 or you have not had your Saturn return yet, then you're really showing up in a trial and error. And I don't really even like saying trial and error. It's in experiential learning. So, right. So you're showing up in the world and you're trying things out. So in terms of building your business, it's like, okay, do I want to try DM? Well, I don't know until I try it. So we're going to try a campaign. We're going to collect some data and see if it worked for me or not, how I feel about it, if I want to continue or if I don't. So there is no, and I would say this goes across types, right? This is outside of human design. A lot of times we just need to test something in our business, and you can't be afraid to try something new. It's the caution that I have is not trying too many new things because you don't give enough time for any one thing to stick. However, if you have a 3-line or a 6 line and you're in your first 30 years, this is just the name of the game. It's just going to be the name of the game. You can't know if something's right for you until you try it. So I have a lot of clients who are 1-3 profile, and they like to hide in that investigator. So the investigator energy, where they are, really leaning so much on, do I have enough knowledge to execute this? And not enough of like, hey, I just need to try it to know if it's correct for me. Okay. Some of the profile lines, and I don't have enough time to get into this today, something I go into in my programs and certainly in my chart reading. So I did include a link if you wanted to book a chart reading or an exploratory conversation with me. So feel free to get on my calendar. And we can look at your chart specifically and what that means for you. But in terms of the profile, some of the profile lines are really designed to be more interactive. Some are designed to be on stage, right? And not so much in a community, right? Some are designed to be in that community and interaction with people. So it can really influence the way that you roll out certain tactics as well. So again, this isn't going into specifics, but really what I wanted to just give you some insight on is, what if you're looking at human design, what would I want to even research or know about? So type, strategy, authority, always first and foremost. And then I would definitely look at your profile lines and learn a little bit about how they operate as well. Okay. I think that's it for today. I think I'm going to pause there. I'm getting this sort of internal cue that that's enough for today. I know that can leave a lot of questions. If you have questions about your specific type, your specific strategy, authority, profile lines, pop them in the comments and I will provide you some feedback. And if it's a really in-depth conversation, I'm going to have you DM me your chart. And you can ask a specific question. If you want to book a reading with me, they're 75 minutes. They're recorded and we go through in real life. How are we going to apply your human design to your business and to your life and to your relationships? And it's super fun, really valuable. And I just love doing it. And if you have any interest in just exploring what it looks like to work with me in a continued capacity, you can also book a meet and greet there as well. So that link is in the description. So I am grateful for each and every one of you. Thanks for being here today. I didn't have a chance to look for comments. So if you have any comments for me or questions, I will check those out after the fact. And please don't forget to just give me a hashtag replay or hashtag live. Say hello. Let me know that you saw this. And if you're joining me on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button for me. I'd love to have you in the loop. All right. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon. Bye.